So you are IBM's cloud computing leader, but you also have a very strong background in business and innovation yourself. Can you sort of run me through the highlights of your early career and how you came to be where you are today?
It's like every planned career, it never quite follows the path you expect it to take. So my background is I'm actually a biochemist by training at university. Got into one of those societies that you do at university, and I got heavily involved as being, I don't know, treasurer or secretary or something like that in one of these societies, and really got into networking with, some of the business leaders we were inviting in, sort of pre-milk round and all those typical things, and actually just got a bit of a bug for being outside of the lab environment and talking more to guys in industry. So when I left university, I joined the pharmaceutical industry. Went through sales and went through marketing, got qualified in marketing, and ended up running a global brand for a major pharmaceutical company as a product manager or global product manager. And that's really where I think change really struck me as being something that was so important in business, because so many people resist change. And it's almost one of those, resistance is futile kind of constructs, because what I was trying to do was to move a drug from being a prescription drug to being an over-the-counter drug. It's actually almost on every supermarket shelf now, but we did that globally. And everywhere I went, internally within the organization, externally with governments and bodies associated with pharmaceuticals, they were all saying, you can't do this. It's impossible. You'll never achieve it. And so one of my early lessons really was, always query the word no, because you never know. There might be a business opportunity behind it, and something that is comparatively unloved could actually turn into a little pot of gold, really, for organisations. And that's almost, in a nutshell, what I've done as a career is found those little unloved areas and made something exciting out of them. In a sort of, I call it entrepreneurism, because I've always worked usually within an enterprise. But I've, skunked stuff around with teams of people and basically brought what I think are great ideas to market. And normally they've managed to get traction. Ultimately, I joined PricewaterhouseCoopers, and then PricewaterhouseCoopers Consulting was acquired by IBM. And the innovation continued. I started working with RFID and mobility and helping change what at the time was really sexy in the technology space, which was enterprise resource planning, ERP, and stretching that to the edge, which was, enabling workers who were in cars or in trucks or doing deliveries or doing engineering, enabling them with technologies that allowed them to keep attached to the enterprise through, mobility or remotely with RFID tags and, the Internet of Things. So I was like a boy in a toy shop here in IBM, working in the labs where I still do, but as a business leader. So I surround myself with technologists who know what I'm talking about and help convert what I'm talking about into architectures and technologies and stuff. But ultimately, I always come at it from a business problem point of view, and that's really how I got into cloud in IBM. And I have to say, Kate, I absolutely love it. It's brilliant. It's one of the most exciting seat of the pants rides I think I've ever had in business. And my role really is making what we do enterprise grade, so that it's stable, robust, and highly repeatable, fit for purpose business, really.
Well, you say that you thrive on change, and change drives you, and you really couldn't have chosen a more changing sort of topography to work in.
Absolutely.
What are the really exciting developments in cloud at the moment for small businesses, do you think?
Well, okay, so from a small business point of view, what's really great is this is like a David versus Goliath scenario. So, and I do a lot of meetings with small businesses. I work a lot with, agencies that drive entrepreneurialism and stuff like that, and love speaking and meeting guys in this space. So I'm hoping I'm talking with a degree of authority, although obviously IBM's a massive corporation. But my thinking is this. Cloud enables small guys to play like big guys. And what I mean by that is, a lot of the capability of cloud. Okay, there's a whole variety of tiers of cloud: private cloud, public cloud, hybrid cloud, multi-tenant clouds. You know, we can get into the nomenclatures as and when we need to. But from a small business point of view, people can get into cloud in a really inexpensive, low-risk way, low risk from a business point of view, have a dabble with it, prove a business model, and then start to scale up very rapidly. It's a tool, it's a device that it allows organizations like small businesses to work in a more of an OPEX environment than a CAPEX environment. So they don't need to invest all of their hard-fought seed corn funding, whether it's from, venture capitalists or angel investors or the banks, if the banks are willing to give the money out to businesses. It allows them to try stuff out and to, really try out innovative ideas, new business models at a comparatively low cost of entry, prove that model, and then drive scale. And what's great about that is, the other side of the balance, the big organizations, and IBM's one of them, are constantly fighting to behave like small, nimble organizations. I mean, it's the small, nimble guys that can be more fleet of foot and get to change quicker than the bigger organizations that have got a lot more baggage and a lot more history and pedigree associated with them. That take a little bit longer. So cloud is beneficial to the big guys because it allows them to operate in an agile way, but it's beneficial to the smaller organizations because it allows them to punch above their weight and also keep the cash in the bank, because cash is obviously fundamentally important to small businesses.
One of the things that I've noticed in speaking to the people in the course of writing this book is that a lot of the big enterprise now are actually starting up their own sort of small entrepreneurial, small business sort of promotion, because they want to be hooked into that attitude, don't they? Is that what you're getting?
I totally agree with them, and in a way, that's how we've operated. So, whilst the cloud endeavours in IBM are done at a global level, at a local level, like here in the UK and Ireland, where I look after IBM's cloud business, we are spanning the entire portfolio of customers, either massive customers, government customers, right the way down to small 3-man, 4-man outfits. And by the way, the challenges aren't that different between both the organizations. And I can get a huge amount of buzz working with some of the smaller outfits, some of the smaller organizations, and also hooking them into larger organizations. And IBM is very eager to do that. I mean, one of the things we do here in the Hursley Labs near Winchester is to embed, some of these smaller developer-type organizations we call ISVs into IBM, and we will allow them access to some of our, hardware and some of our software and services, which are set up here to be really robust industry-grade architectures, but allows them to try out and scale those smaller ideas, in the comfort and the security of a sort of DMZ, a demilitarized zone, and just see if it works. And if it works, then we can work together to help them scale. So it's kind of, it's one of those things where we're all embracing each other, and obviously that ecosystem, and we all know because of the massive drive into social business, that ecosystem and all of the stuff associated with that's kind of new to everybody in the landscape, whether they're small or large. There's no real advantage out there for the bigger players. Everybody's starting off from square one.
Do you think any business can survive without being, I heard a statistic from Emma Jones actually recently that 40% of small businesses in the UK don't have a presence online, and aren't sort of in the cloud in any way, shape or form. Do you think, looking forward, do you think it's possible to survive without being part of the internet and the cloud?
Quite simply, no. I think I would love to get under the covers of some of those statistics and actually really just see how accurate that is. I'm not querying Emma's research, but actually, 2 or 3 steps away from maybe where the guy was thinking answering the questions or the lady was thinking answering questions, I bet you'll find there's some kind of cloud linkage there somewhere, or some, internet linkage somewhere, whether it's how they do emails, how they track orders, analytics, logistics, all of those things. They're all fundamentally cloud enabled. And I think if an organization is really trying to postpone what I think is the inevitable, I believe they're opening themselves to an unfair advantage in that their competition may very well overtake them very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think is the most important thing for small businesses to understand or realise about the internet today? Is it just simply that you have to be on it, or is there sort of some other sort of secret knowledge that we should know about?
Well, it's like everything in life. I think, practice makes perfect. I would say, it's a little bit like the experiences I'm sure many of us have when we start surfing, maybe in front of the telly on an evening. You find yourself going off down a whole load of rabbit holes, and you end up somewhere. I wonder how I got here. I think the coaching that I would suggest, if I can be so bold, is, offline, perhaps in the cold light of day, plan what it is you're trying to do, and work out your business plan. And for you as an organization, starting perhaps with a fresh, clean sheet of paper is, what is it we're trying to achieve? What for us defines success? And then start to overlay then how are we going to finance it? How are we going to drive a reputation? How are we going to use technology to our advantage? Because you could quite easily, spend your whole life just rummaging around through the technology services and vendors out there, because there's a whole myriad of them. There's a lot of really exciting stuff happening. It's changing, as you know, from your career. It's changing every day. So, keeping on top of it is actually a full-time role if you're not careful. So I would just say, plan your work and work your plan would be my coaching, and use technology to help enable that process to happen. And in many cases, a lot of those technologies you can try out very inexpensively or almost free in many cases. But again, do not fall into the rabbit hole of, there's a free lunch out there, because there's always some kind of price to be paid, whether that's that you've made yourself vulnerable, or you're, maybe stuff isn't quite so private as you might have thought it was, or, always keep your eyes wide open and your feet on the ground.
Brilliant. Thank you. Okay, well, last question. If you could go back in time and tell yourself one thing that you know now when you were just starting out in business, what would it be?
I think it all comes back to those points I was raising earlier, which is, if somebody says no, just kind of query it in your head, because there's a lot of people, for example, who balk at the idea of, you've got to be careful that's going to become a commodity business, or how long are you going to be able to keep that degree of differentiation and value add and uniqueness. And I think, look, guys, don't be frightened of that. There's an awful lot of businesses out there, and you can look at telcos, you can look at utilities, you can look at a whole myriad of business out there that make really, really good money out of a commoditized area. So don't feel, that you've always got to be bleeding edge. In fact, quite often it's quite good to be number two and allow somebody else to take all the scar tissue. But I'd just say, if somebody says no, always think about it. As I found in my career, there's an opportunity to make money out of it, I think.